Hello guys, my name is Anais and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I would like to share to you my personal experiences or my struggles on COVID-19. We all know that the world was shocked by this pandemic when an organism invisible to the naked eye pushed humanity to a corner and halted life as we all know it. There is an unprecedented number of sickness and deaths that has never been seen during this lifetime. And yet, despite the danger to their own lives and the well-being of their loved ones, healthcare workers showed tremendous resiliency in attending to every suspected infected patients that come through their care. I would like to take this opportunity to give my highest appreciation to my fellow healthcare workers who fought and continue to work tirelessly in taking care of all patients infected by COVID-19. As a healthcare worker in the hospital, I have to attend my duties even with this pandemic coronavirus going around. And this is when my story began on April 17, 2020. While I was on my night shift in the hospital, I was exposed for about 3 times to two different patients in the ward positive with COVID-19. The following day, I went home after my last night shift feeling great, but the next morning of April 19, I began to feel different. First, I had a headache like bursting pain. My extremities, hands, and feet were cold like ice that made me shiver. Then that evening, my temperature starts to spike up, and so I took paracetamol to help me with my aches and pains and to lower my temperature. On that same day, I rang the ward where I last worked and notified the staff nurse in charge about my symptoms. The nurse reassured me to pass the message to the line manager of the department for proper reporting and for COVID-19 test appointment. Because of this, my husband had to inform his ward manager of the situation we're in and let her know that he can't report for work the following day for he have to look after me. My husband also rang 111 to inform them of the symptoms I am experiencing that time, and then they advised us to both self-isolate. Then eventually, I was booked for COVID-19 test after 4 days of isolation. So upon arrival at the testing center, which is a drive-through car park, I saw health frontliners wearing full personal protective equipment or PPE, and they're all over the place. And from the entrance gate, we are instructed to keep the car windows closed at all times, and that no one is allowed to get out of the car either. At that moment, I felt a bit nervous and I don't know why. Before entering the gate, one of the frontliner did stop the car and asked us to show our identification card through the closed window. Yeah, through the closed window glass. And after verification, they let us pass and drive through to the first booth. This time, one of the frontliners showed me a cardboard with written phone number in it and instructed me to call the number provided. So through the call, I was given directions to follow exactly as to what they're gonna say. First, I was told to open just a wee fraction of the passenger side window beside the driver's empty seat. One of the staff came near the car window, and dropped a test kit and then asked me to close the window at once. I felt Petrified at that stage, I thought to myself, I'm not tested yet, but for me, it's like I'm already contagious. I was so emotional and tearful, trying to hide it away from my husband, who was at the driver's seat that time, while I was at the back, so quiet, trying to hold and keep my feelings of self pity. After given the test kit, we are then asked to move and park at one corner to do the procedure myself. And after the test, we then proceeded to the next booth where they collected all the test kits. We then drove home immediately after the test, and upon arriving home, I went straight up to my room before I will be told to do so. Feeling low, of course, sad and lonely. I burst into tears, my husband not knowing how I really felt that day. Though I'm thankful because it's not him who got it, because it might be more complicated with all his underlying health problems too. So putting that in mind made me a bit calm. Now that I now then that I'm on isolation or I was on isolation, I have to stay in a room all alone. Food, drinks, and everything I need were brought and served outside my room to avoid spread of infection. I have to do hand hygiene before and after touching anything, and I have to disinfect every single thing I touch. I have to wash and dry my own dishes before putting them out for proper washing. I also monitor my own temperature and make a record of it. Same with the medications taken. At the time of quarantine, me and my husband both uses our cell phones to communicate to each other for anything and everything I need, even if we stayed in one house. He stayed downstairs while I'm isolated in our bedroom upstairs. We have to follow the self-isolation guidelines to keep my husband protected of getting the virus. While on quarantine, I did feel bored and felt homesick. And so, to keep me going and to remain sane, I did listen to music, watch movies, read books, watch online daily masses. Yeah. The day became too slow and night became too long. Pain was inevitable. It was just on and on, especially my back. I kept moaning and complaining to my husband about it, and he told me to take pain reliever regularly, which is just paracetamol at that time. On day 5 of isolation, the 23rd of April, test came back void and I was advised to do another test as soon as possible. So I informed my line manager at work for a referral to a repeat test. I constantly have fever, and so I have to take paracetamol regularly, and I always had this chronic pain on my back. This happened mostly whenever I'm in the middle of my sleep. Night seems a nightmare for me, and to help me ease the pain, I get up even in the middle of the night to sit myself and to take paracetamol to alleviate the pain. This happens almost every day, I mean every night, and all I was saying was, into your hands, Lord, I commend my spirit. I never complain nor question God of my aches and pains, but I just offered it as a sacrifice for world peace and healing, especially to all the COVID-19 victims like me. On day 6, I got a telephone call from the COVID team to organize the second test and getting all the information details they needed. I was told to wait for another call from the test center. And on April 25, my husband drove me to the test center for COVID-19 test. It's a different test center this time. And on the car, we are both wearing face masks for protection, especially so that I was coughing a lot that time. Upon arrival at the test center, identification was checked by the staff, but apparently my name was not on the list of referral for COVID-19 test. We are then instructed to park in one corner until they get confirmation of their data in the system that I will be tested that day. But it seems they can't find my name in it. I was a bit disappointed, but eventually the staff decided to take the test anyway. Test was done inside the car while the frontliner was outside, and through the open car window, she reached unto me with the swab, asked me to open wide my mouth with my tongue out, and at this, I already started to cough and even nearly vomited on her. Same swab from my mouth, she did it same thing on to both my nostrils, and that was it, done and dusted. While still at the car park, one of the staff came over to confirm some personal details, for she said that they can still find any referral for me for the test. But she assured me that they will still process the test and result will be communicated to me soon. On the following day, I got a phone call from the COVID test center and told me of the result that I am tested COVID-19 positive. So that was April 26 when I was tested, when I got the result of the test that I am COVID-19 positive. The news for me was like a bombshell, exploded into my ears at that time. I was speechless, as if something was stuck on my throat. Different questions came into my mind. Why? How? Because I believe myself that I did the wrong, that did the I'm sorry, that I did the right thing to protect myself from getting sick. But what did I do wrong that I got the virus? So that's the question that keeps running into my mind. And I couldn't hold my feelings at that moment. And I start to cry over the phone. And the lady who's giving me the news was trying to calm me down. And given all the instructions, I tried to compose myself and just jotting down all the things she wants me to do after that call. That was one horrendous day for me, as I don't know what to think and what to do. Far worse, my husband has to notify all his line manager of the test result. And as they went by, I felt more emotional, still having pain all over my body. Every day is a different symptoms and it's getting worse and coughing a lot. That made me gasp for air and makes my stomach sore that I have to use pillow to hold my tummy while coughing. My body temperature was constantly high. I was restless. I kept tossing and turning in bed. I couldn't find any comfort at all, and my fingers were stiff, especially in the morning. Everything in me is just pain, and I felt so helpless that even my husband can't come near me. The fear that he himself might get the virus. I was miserable and that I feel more homesick. just missing everybody back home, my family most especially. But as much as possible, I don't want them to worry for me, especially so that I am miles and miles away from them. But then I can't help it. So I decided to message my nephew, a nurse himself, letting him know how I am doing, and of course it gave me the shock too. But he was calm and tries to calm me down, telling me all positive things, so not to worry. He was then the one who told the rest of the family regarding my situation. At that time that I was in distress, I did express myself on Facebook how I felt. Prayers of healing from family, friends, and colleagues suddenly appeared on my FB account, and I can't believe how immensely they supported me emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Messages from everyone kept coming and seems nonstop, not only on my FB, but through Messenger and text, with so many messages coming in that I could even hardly read and reply to them all, for I was weak and dizzy, and I got no energy to do it at that time. But thanks to my husband, who replied to some of them, if not all, my apologies. Then a good friend of mine named Danny made a bit of revision to the song I Will Survive and told me to sing it 3 times a day, and that in no time I'll get better, he said. And he also told me to make a video of it just for a laugh in the future, which will I do later. I find it funny, but at the same time, the lyrics of the song perfectly fit into my current situation at that time. Well, I tried my best to sing it, but my cough is more powerful than my voice. Anyway, to my dear friend, Danny Alimorong, thank you very much. Surely I did survive. Thank you. After the day I got the COVID test result, I remembered sending a message to my brother-in-law. He's a young priest, Pachi Marks as he is fondly called, asking him favor to include me in his daily prayers. He then replied and given me reassurance of his prayers for me and his brother Gilbert, my husband. And then on his Facebook account on April 27, he publicly posted an appeal to give a special moment of prayer for my healing with the title Science and Faith. There were about different reactions. Oh, no, I mean there were different reactions, prayerful comments, and shares of the said post at that time. It was indeed overwhelming how people immensely reacted and responded to the prayer appeal for just a day. And not only that, because on 4th of May, he posted his own song composition entitled Pray for Me, the exact words which I personally asked him to please pray for me. He said that the song was composed with my inspiration together with one of the nurse he knows that was also infected with COVID-19 and was on recovery that time. Then exactly on my day of isolation or isolation period, the music video was posted. The last day of my isolation period, the music video was posted on Facebook account of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Sagada, and then posted again by the composer himself, Pachi Marks Castaneda, on his Facebook on May 18. He dedicated to me and all the COVID-19 victims. And to you, adding Father Mark's powers. And thank you very much and God bless. On April 25, my husband decided to phone the doctor to ask them if they can prescribe me a medicine that would help ease my cough as it is getting worse. But the doctor advised me instead to go to the clinic, and so my husband drove me there. In the hospital clinic, a nurse came into the room in full PPE while I was sitting on a chair with my face mask on. I started to cough and becoming so tight on my chest, and she offered me a drink of water. She then took my vital signs, and everything seems out of place. The nurse went out of the room, reported to the doctor the observations she had. Then a lady doctor came into the room, asked me a few questions, took my vital signs too for the second time, and asked me to stand facing her backwards. And with her stethoscope on my back, asked me to deep breath. After that, she told me that my lungs were clear. She wrote some notes on a paper in front of her, told me to wait for my prescribed medication, and went out of the room. A nurse came back in and hand me over my prescribed antibiotics and some instructions about self-isolation and assisted me out of the room to the hospital exit. They were actually so strict that time about coming in and out of the hospital, and there's no other person accompanying the patient except the patient herself or himself. So I have nobody that time with me. At home, I did commence on antibiotic as per instruction. But as days passed by, I find it no difference. But instead, I felt more unwell. I didn't have the appetite to eat, food tastes sour, and my stomach feels sick and nauseated all the time. I was weak and lightheaded. I tried eating fruits and I find it better. Since then, my husband keeps serving me fresh fruits. He also made fruit smoothies for easy swallowing, and with the help of my brother-in-law and his wife and my sister-in-law and her family, the freshly made food which keeps coming into the house. So they kept me well fed with their homemade cooked food, of which I am so grateful of their love, care, time, and effort they spent for me to get well the soonest and helping my husband to look after my nutrition. In the middle of the night of April 27, oh, I'm sorry, 28, I woke up and took my antibiotic. But after an hour, I woke up feeling very sick. I tried to manage myself into the comfort room, but I started being shaky, sweating cold, dizzy, and then I vomited. I got no help at that time as my husband was sleeping downstairs, and it's just after midnight, so he could hardly hear me from upstairs, and I got no way to call him for I left my phone in the bedroom. I felt so helpless, and after some time, I was able to settle a bit. And so I went back to bed, checked my temperature, which was 38 degrees centigrade at that time, centigrade, yeah. I was still shaky and about to collapse. My husband came up to check on me, but I'm already in bed trying to get back to sleep. The following day, after I had my breakfast, I was chatting to my husband and my voice seemed not right at all. I sound feeling cold. nervous, and I was short of breath. I was gasping for air, still feeling dizzy, and so I excused myself and went back to bed, feeling emotional and tearful, thinking what's happening on me. I'm on antibiotics and some medications, but it seems not helping me at all. Then my husband told me that he is going to ring the doctor to make an appointment for me to be seen for he thinks that I might need an inhaler to help me with my breathing as I was gasping for air while talking. He then made an appointment for me to see the doctor at 10:30 that morning, and so we went. Same procedure just like the first checkup I had. So the nurse assessed me, took my vital signs, then made a report. Doctor came in and listened to my breathing with her stethoscope. After that, the lady doctor told me that she's not happy with her observations of me, constantly coughing, hands are shaking, my respiration was a bit fast and the blood pressure was high too. So after all the observations done, the lady doctor then told me that she's going to refer me to the doctor at COVID ward for possible admission. I was not happy with what she suggested, and then my tears starts to shed. I told her that if possible, I don't want to be admitted. But she tried to calm me down and explain things why I needed to be confined. I don't know what to think anymore, but I was so anxious and worried. Never mind being isolated at home, seeing no one, but to stay in the hospital would surely be so different, knowing that there will be no visitors allowed. I would be feeling more sick and lonely at the same time. The thoughts of no one would like to come near me because I am COVID positive. It's just total feeling of paranoia for me at that time. While I was left in the room for quite some time, I phoned my husband who was waiting at the car park and notified him that I am referred for admission. But he was just calm and told me that it's the best for me because he might not be able to manage me on his own when something worse happens. Still, I couldn't accept, and the more I cried to him through the phone like a child. Uh, I was begging for help. I'm sorry, to just bring me home. He tried his best to appease me and told me that it will not take long for me to stay in the hospital and soon be home without me knowing. And I thought, there's nothing I can do then but to stay. We decided then for him to go home and get my things while I am waiting to what ward I will be admitted. I thought to myself, that's it. I can see my husband for a while. I just left him in the car park for my doctor's appointment. Next thing I knew was we will be separated for a while without knowing until when. Because I will be kept for confinement. There's not even proper goodbyes that time. On the day of my hospital admission, so many things happened that day. Chest x-ray, blood extraction, needle was inserted to my arm, then flown. Nurse, doctors on duty, and consultant came one at a time for interviews and explained things about my care while I will be confined in the hospital. First night of confinement was a nightmare as I barely slept because of all sorts of noise coming from outside my room. I kept tossing and turning all night, getting myself comfortable. The next day, after the nurse took my vital signs, she told me that my blood pressure is quite low, and I thought maybe because I didn't get much sleep the night after. And at about 9 a.m., breakfast time, the nurse gave out the morning tablets, and as usual, I just took them, but after maybe 20 or 30 minutes, I started to shiver, feeling lightheaded at the same time pain. My stomach was feeling sick, nauseated, and about to vomit. I then grabbed the nurse call button, and the nurse came. I told her how I felt, and she immediately took my vital signs, and everything was quite low. The nurse offered to help me to bed, but I refused as I felt no energy to move. I asked her what medicine she gave me, and she said it's my antibiotics. And I said, oh my God, I hate that antibiotics. It makes me very sick. The nurse referred me immediately to the doctor on duty at that time. And so I was given an antiemetic tablet to help me stop from vomiting. Then a lady doctor came to check my vital signs too, while one of the staff took my ECG. I then stayed in bed for a while to get some sleep and rest. The consultant doctor learned what happened to me that morning and came to me apologizing to what happened because he forgot to write an order the night before to stop giving me that particular antibiotic that made me sick. Then that evening, a representative from the Clinical Translational Research and Innovation Center came to visit and wanted to speak to me about a research study and said that I'm one of the COVID-19 positive patients selected for a clinical trial on COVID-19 therapy. And this would only be possible if I give my consent and sign for it. I did understand that my participation will be voluntary and that I am free to withdraw at any time without giving any reason and without my medical care or legal rights being affected. This study is being conducted actually by the researchers at the University of Oxford, which acts as the sponsor for the research, working, working with the doctors at many hospitals across the United Kingdom. Then the consultant doctor came to personally further explain the research study all about. He said that patients may be included in the study if they are at least 18 years of age, have COVID-19 confirmed by a laboratory test for coronavirus, are considered likely by their doctors, and are in hospital. So, and patients will not be included if the attending doctor thinks that there is a particular reason why none of the study treatments are suitable. The study treatment may or may not help me personally, but this study should help future patients. Anyway, I signed the invitation to participate in that research study. And so that evening, they commenced me on a new antibiotic as part of the new research study. That evening, after taking the new antibiotic, my stomach starts to make growling sounds. And before I knew it, I was rushing to the toilet for at least 4 to 5 times, going back and forth the toilet constantly. And instead of letting the nurse know, I rang my husband and told him about me having a loose bowel motion and asked him that maybe eating an apple fruit would help, and he replied, yes, that would be great. I ate then the apples which my husband brought in the hospital, and it worked because the LBM stopped, but the grumbling sound never stopped that night. The night staff nurse came to do the observations and giving me medications for the night, and that was the only time I reported about the LBM happened earlier that evening. She then told me that she's going to write it in my record. On May 1st, 2020, I felt much better comparing from the past days. Now I can feel a very big difference because I feel more energetic. So I was still coughing, and once I start talking, that's the time I cough a lot. I tried not to answer phone calls from family, friends, and colleagues to minimize talking and to avoid coughing. Doctors did the routine rounds that morning and told me of the result of my laboratory test, which was overall okay except for my iron, which is low. The male doctor who was looking after me told me then that they will do another blood extraction for a test, and when result comes back, I will be sent home in the evening. And so one of the lady doctor extracted a blood sample and sent it to the laboratory. And that same evening, he told me to get ready for home. Then one of the nurses came to assist me. And before letting me out of the hospital room, the nurse asked me to wear a mask and put on gloves while she was in full PPE to accompany me out because no visitor is allowed inside to collect me. So she have to wheel me out the car park where my lift is waiting. And on our way out the hall, there were hospital staff at the nurse station. And seems to me they were all looking at which made me feel paranoid, thinking, "Oops, here comes the virus." But I just waved to them as we are parting away, as a sign of thanks and goodbye anyway. And as we were passing the corridor, there were more staff wearing PPE, holding the doors to open at the same time, keeping their distances from us while we're about to pass them. Upon discharge from the hospital, I was advised to go on another 14 days of self-isolation or quarantine and was given a letter to send my GP and an instructions for me to follow while on quarantine. Getting out of the hospital was great. I feel really great, though I know that I will still be isolated in the house. And so evening came, and as usual, dinner was served, but this time I'll say it's a good food I would love to eat after how many days of eating hospital food. And so I ate a lot like I've never eaten before and end up so stuffed. And I thank my husband for he tried his best to cook for me, which he doesn't usually do. As the day passes by, I still felt weak and constantly coughing, especially when talking, that I can even hear wheezes and crackle sounds from my throat. And because my mouth and throat were dry, so I have bottle of water with me at all times to drink. Headache bothered me a lot too, and I was tired even without so much physical activities. But with the help of my husband, who patiently does almost everything for me, I was trying my best not so much of a burden, though I always kept telling him of my aches and pains. And as a nurse himself, he always reassures me and just look after my welfare with tender loving care. I am so grateful to the Lord for giving me a husband with so much patience and never get tired of taking care of me, especially that time. Few more days passed and the occupational health department of the hospital where I work phoned for the second time to ask me how I am doing and ask some questions with regards to my recovery and then give me some health tips to follow while on quarantine. While I was on isolation, some friends, colleagues, and family members continued to keep sending me their love and care through their inspiring messages. They reassured me of their continuous prayers and letting me know how much they care about me. It was overwhelming for I never expect how much people would thank and care even those I don't personally know. And on May 8th, I got more surprised when the manager of the ward where I work came personally herself to deliver a bouquet of flowers and a card expressing her well wishes. I was shocked and speechless when my husband handed it over to me. I became emotional, tears starts to flow on my cheeks. I was really amazed and I was just so thankful for her thoughtfulness, especially at that time. There's so much I have to be grateful to God actually because in so many ways He have shown me much love and He never left me in my distress. I never complained to God nor blame anyone for my illness. That because I believe that everything happens for a reason. But as days go by, I notice myself becoming more emotional. I missing my family back home in the Philippines, which often made me shed tears thinking of them. Despite the presence and company of my husband, the distancing policy didn't help me at all. So I tried to preoccupy myself with other things. If I'm not tired and feeling better, I watch my hubby practicing golf at the backyard from the window upstairs, as I am not allowed out to stay under the sun due to medication's adverse effect. I keep in touch more often with family back home. I read books, listening to music, watching TV, and because I was extended to isolate for another 2 weeks, and it was Marian month that May, I prayed the Holy Rosary and watched the online daily masses. Days passed and I was feeling better, so I start to do some physical house chores, but it seems I'm not strong enough yet as I get exhausted quite easily. From then on, I just take it easy as I'm always told to do so. But few days before my quarantine period ends, I started having headaches, particularly in the evening, and it's getting worse every day. I applied pressure to the sore point, tied a handkerchief onto my head, and I took stronger pain reliever. I stayed most times in bed, putting my head down, resting, but the pain still lingers on. And when I cough, the pain is more intense. The morning of May 16, I had a terrible, severe headache and I vomited. My husband then was worried and he phoned the emergency doctor. And I was told to go back to the hospital clinic. From there, the doctor said it is a severe migraine and sinusitis. I was given antibiotics and prescribed medicine for migraine and to stop vomiting or to lessen the vomiting. It was more and more additional medications I was taking that I have to make a list and a reminder what and when to take them. Antibiotics after antibiotics, it never stopped since day one. Since day one that I got the virus. But sure, with the help of those medications, I got better and never felt the severe headache. and be initiated again. And so on that Sunday, which is May 17, the last day of my isolation, I was surely excited for the day to be over. I am so thankful to God for He restored really my strength, and I'm starting to get back on my feet again. And during the whole duration of my quarantine, I found myself became more prayerful. I prayed mostly for those people affected with the pandemic, especially the COVID-19 victims, and for world peace. And I felt that this made me feel closer to God, and I really appreciated all the good things that happened to me. And forever, I will be praising and thanking God for His love and mercy upon me, for He once again given me a second chance to live when He healed and let me survive the fight against COVID-19. Overcoming the painful ordeal was not that easy for me, but with the non-stop care and prayers from my family and friends, the support I got mentally, physically, and emotionally was truly unreal. It was more than what I have hoped for. After the time that I was quarantined, I learned that there are a lot of heroes in this world. They are those who are willing to sacrifice their lives to save those who are sick. They didn't treat their work as a profession, but it's their devotion to save people. And I can say that I would not be here today if the bravery of those frontliners were not present. I also learned that in times of crisis, our faith is surely be tested, but that doesn't mean we will be defeated. It simply means that sometimes we need to get through these trials for us to be equipped on the things that will happen next. It is also the time to ponder about the things that's going on in our lives. I pray that after this pandemic, people will realize that God deserves everything, and without Him, we are actually simply nothing. And my one piece of advice is let us not lose hope or faith in God, for there is no limit to His healing power. With God's inspiration and the people who was always there with me during my struggle and my family who became my strength, I was able to write this story of my life or share this story of my life and able to share it all with you. Thank you so much and God bless. And to my loving husband, the nurse who took care of all my personal needs and who was with me all the way through thick and thin, I say thank you so much. And I dedicate this story of my life, struggles on COVID-19. Thank you very much, guys, for listening, and please don't forget to like and subscribe on my YouTube channel, Anais L. Cast. Bye for now and hope to see you again next time. Thank you and have a good day.